On a clear summer morning, Air India Flight 171 lifted off from Mumbai, bound for London. The passengers settled in, expecting a routine journey across continents, their minds filled with thoughts of reunions, business meetings, and new adventures. The crew moved through their pre-flight checks, confident in the reliability of their state-of-the-art aircraft. But within moments, the ordinary became unthinkable. What began as a standard takeoff quickly spiraled into catastrophe, shattering the calm of the morning and sending shockwaves through the aviation world. The modern Boeing 787 Dreamliner, celebrated for its safety and innovation, fell from the sky with shocking suddenness. The wreckage scattered across an open field, leaving investigators and families alike desperate for answers. Strangely, no distress call came from the cockpit. The silence from the flight deck deepened the mystery, suggesting a disaster that unfolded in mere seconds, too fast for anyone to react or send a warning. With no eyewitnesses to the final moments, investigators turned to the black boxes, the flight data and cockpit voice recorders, hoping these silent sentinels would reveal the truth behind the tragedy. As the data was painstakingly analyzed, it became clear that neither mechanical failure nor sudden weather played a role. Instead, the evidence pointed to a deliberate, critical action taken inside the cockpit itself. This revelation shifted the investigation's focus. No longer were they searching for what broke, but for why such a devastating decision was made, and who was responsible for the flight-ending action. The story of Flight 171 stands as a sobering reminder. Even the most advanced systems, operated by skilled professionals, can fail in ways that defy easy explanation. In aviation, every answer leads to new questions, and every tragedy leaves a legacy of lessons to be learned. On the morning of June 12, 2025, Air India Flight 171, a state-of-the-art Boeing 787 Dreamliner, prepared for its scheduled journey from Ahmedabad to London. The weather was flawless, clear blue skies, gentle winds, and perfect visibility. For the crew and passengers, it was just another routine international flight, with nothing to suggest the tragedy that would soon unfold. 230 people, including seasoned crew members and families heading abroad, settled into their seats. The atmosphere inside the cabin was calm, filled with the usual pre-flight chatter and anticipation. The takeoff itself was smooth and uneventful, as the massive jet lifted gracefully into the sky, leaving the bustling city of Ahmedabad behind. But less than a minute after liftoff, disaster struck. Both engines suddenly lost power while the aircraft was still climbing, reaching only 625 feet above the ground. In the cockpit, alarms blared and the pilots fought desperately to regain control, but the situation deteriorated rapidly. With no thrust and little altitude to recover, the aircraft stalled and crashed in a field just beyond the airport perimeter. The impact was catastrophic, and flames engulfed the wreckage. Of the 230 people on board, only one miraculously survived. News of the disaster spread rapidly, sending shockwaves across India and the global aviation community. Families gathered at airports, desperate for news, while the nation mourned the loss of so many lives in a single devastating moment. With no immediate explanation for the sudden engine failure, speculation and rumors began to swirl. Was it a technical malfunction, human error, or something more sinister? Investigators, however, urged the public to remain patient, promising a thorough and methodical investigation. International teams of aviation experts soon arrived in Ahmedabad, joining Indian authorities in the search for answers. Their first priority was to recover the aircraft's black boxes, the flight data and cockpit voice recorders believed to hold the key to understanding the tragedy. These crucial devices, often the only witnesses to a disaster, would provide vital clues about the aircraft's final moments, the actions of the crew, and the sequence of events that led to the fatal crash. As investigators combed through the wreckage and analyzed every piece of evidence, the search for answers had only just begun, with the world watching and waiting for the truth to emerge. The black boxes quickly revealed the cause of the incident. Both engines were starved of fuel, leading to a catastrophic failure. The fuel control switches for both engines were inexplicably moved from run to cutoff just seconds after takeoff, instantly shutting down the engines. This action was both sudden and unexpected. Moments later, the switches were returned to run, but at such a low altitude there was no time for a successful restart. The pilots were in a race against time. The aircraft's ram air turbine deployed, confirming a total loss of power. This small turbine is designed to provide emergency power, but it was too late to prevent the inevitable. The data left no doubt. The engine stopped because the fuel supply was deliberately cut. This was not a mechanical failure, but a deliberate action. The timeline was chillingly brief. There was no chance for recovery. The sequence of events unfolded in mere seconds, leaving the crew with no time to react effectively. The black box answered what happened, but not why. The investigators were left with more questions than answers. How could both fuel switches be moved in such a critical phase of flight? This was a question that puzzled everyone involved. The investigation now focused on the cockpit, searching for any signs of motive or malfunction. Every detail was scrutinized to find an explanation. The answer would prove elusive and deeply troubling. The mystery of why the fuel switches were moved remained unsolved, leaving a haunting question mark over the incident. The cockpit voice recorder added a human layer to the mystery. In the seconds before disaster, the pilot's conversation was calm, until one asked, "Why did you do the cutoff?" The other replied, "I didn't." This brief cryptic exchange became the heart of the investigation. It suggested the action was either unintentional, unnoticed, or denied by the crew. No alarms, no emergency, just confusion and shock. The exchange ruled out a coordinated response to a crisis. The recording ended with a stall warning and the final sounds of impact. The mystery had shifted from technical failure to a baffling human event. The fuel control switches on the Boeing 787 are designed with lever locks to prevent accidental activation. Moving both switches to cutoff requires two deliberate actions, almost impossible to do by accident. Experts agree. A simple bump or slip can't explain what happened. This forced investigators to consider more troubling scenarios: a deliberate act, a rare coordinated accident, or a mechanical failure. Could the lever locks have failed, or was there an electronic malfunction? The data showed the physical levers were moved, making an electronic glitch unlikely. The focus narrowed to the interface between pilots and controls. The system was designed to prevent this exact event, yet it happened. Understanding how remains the investigation's central challenge. The answer could reshape aviation safety. Investigators uncovered a troubling precedent. In 2018, the FAA warned of lever lock issues on similar Boeing fuel switches. Some switches could be moved to cutoff without the protective pull-up, making accidental shutdown possible. The Air India jet had not undergone the recommended inspection for this vulnerability. If the lever locks were faulty, the risk of accidental activation would be much higher. This historical warning shifted the focus from pure human error to possible mechanical defect. The co-pilot's denial on the CVR could reflect genuine surprise if he believed the locks were engaged. The 2018 bulletin, once advisory, now loomed as a critical clue. A ghost in the machine may have played a role in the tragedy. The investigation entered a painstaking phase, with key questions still unanswered. Identifying which pilots spoke during the critical exchange is essential to understanding cockpit dynamics. Forensic analysis of the fuel switch assembly will determine if the lever locks were engaged or faulty. The lack of cockpit video leaves investigators relying on circumstantial evidence. No new safety directives have been issued, but the case has reignited debate over cockpit design and safety bulletins. The world waits for the final report, hoping for answers and lessons to prevent future tragedies. Both pilots were experienced, well-rested, and had clean records, no signs of impairment or fatigue. The aircraft, a 12-year-old Dreamliner, was well maintained with no history of engine or fuel system issues. Fuel samples were clean, ruling out contamination. The Dreamliner's advanced systems performed as designed after the power loss, deploying emergency backups. This was not a case of inexperience, poor maintenance, or bad weather. The crash involved a modern jet, a qualified crew, and ideal conditions. The investigation zeroed in on the human-machine interface in the cockpit. The reasons for the disaster lay somewhere between human action and technological design. As of August 25, 2025, the core question remains: why were both fuel switches moved to cutoff? The answer hinges on voice identification and forensic analysis of the switches. If the lever locks were faulty, accidental activation is possible. If not, the mystery deepens. The tragedy has sparked debate over advisory versus mandatory safety actions. Even a minor mechanical flaw can lead to disaster under the right circumstances. The legacy of Flight 171 is still unwritten, a lesson in the thin line between safety and catastrophe. For families, answers mean closure. For aviation, they mean progress. The final report promises to unravel the mystery and shape the future of flight safety.